I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. It's entitled, Are You Getting the Best Out of Your IT? My name's Peter Tyrrell and I'll be presenting today. I'd like to also make you aware that the controls in GoToWebinar allow you to type in questions, and if there is enough time at the end of this webinar, which should run for half an hour, I will answer those questions. So with one other point I want to make, is also this is mainly dealing from a business perspective, so it's not a deep dive into IT technology as such, but we'll be talking about the implications of some of the areas where IT supports the business. So without any further delay, let's get into the presentation. What does IT do for the business? So we need to understand IT's role in supporting the business. Well, it really supports the business goals of your organisation, and this is achieved through the provision and support of applications. Because it's applications that help run your business, whether they're used internally by your own staff or whether they're used by your clients or by your trading partners. Applications power today's modern businesses. And there are several ways that you can acquire an application. You can buy it, that's sometimes called a COTS solution, so commercial off-the-shelf software. Nowadays there are quite often cloud applications that you can subscribe to, or you can build it yourself. And we are finding that there's that all three of these are valid ways to acquire an application to use for your business, and all of them have pros and cons of what it means for a business to use that method of acquiring access to an application. Regardless of those three, your IT function will most likely be managing those applications on your behalf, making sure that they're updated on a regular basis, that the business has access to them when and where it needs to, and keeping them relevant to supporting your business goals. Now let's take a look at let's get you to think about your applications that support your business. Unless you're a very new business, it's very unlikely that you're 100% subscribe. So quite likely subscribe could be might be used for internal Office applications such as Office 365. That's a good example of a subscription where you can use Microsoft email, Outlook email in the cloud. But most likely you'll have some that you may have bought and modified, or maybe you've even built them yourself from scratch. Most likely also that you'll have applications that are used by people outside of your organisation. They could be customers or business partners, and they'll be wanting to use your application, but they'll want it to work on their device. And this is where you now don't have any control over what kind of device, the size of the screen, how it's connected, etc. So in order for people to use things today, I think you'll agree that in the modern world, people seem to have a very low tolerance of whether something works well for them or not. So it needs to be relevant to the person that is using it. And that means it must be flexible. You must be able to enhance it easily because everyone wants a shorter time to market for any new feature. So they're key elements that you need to be considering. And you know, when we're looking at the form and the function of applications. The form is what kind of screen size the device it runs on, and the function is what you want people to be able to do. It must be scalable and reliable. Well, you know, that sounds like it's a motherhood statement, I guess, but people are expecting, just like if I plug something into an electrical socket, I expect when I flick the switch that electricity will flow to the device. Well, people are expecting that your application will be available when they want to use it, not when you want to make it available. And it has to be able to scale up or scale down. So for instance, if you built something that's for 100,000 people to use and only 10,000 people are using it, you don't really want to be paying for something that's over your requirements as a business. So let's look at the key areas for improvement. So there's three that actually there'll be four that I'll be covering here. So within your organization, as I said, you'll probably have a mix of applications where you want to exchange data between them, and you may want to exchange data with, say, your other businesses that are partners with your organization. So the first key area I want to look at is integration. How can we look for improvements there to get the best out of your IT? It applies to all three acquisition methods, and that's buy, build, or subscribe. And quite often it's achieved by programmers writing specific integration functionality. So the bespoke or tailored solution, they write something, and that can bring problems with it by writing those bespoke integration connectors. So a key area where you can look at getting the best out of your IT is where there is technology that will allow that to be happened without coding. That's because it's going to be faster and it's going to be easier to maintain. Okay, key area number 2. This is new development. This is a key area where you can look for improvements. Look, a lot of people kind of say, well, you know, why would I do new development? Well, you know, if you let's take a well-known ERP provider, SAP. It costs a lot of money to buy SAP. I'm not saying it's not worth the value of what you pay for it, but it costs a lot of money. And you had to be prepared to do one of two things. As a business, SAP, if you like, has like an inherent business model of how a business should work. So you have to either decide as a business that you are going to change the way your business processes run so that you align with that SAP business model, because in that way it's easier to implement SAP. If you're saying like, no, well, our business processes are working really well, I want to now change SAP to support the way our business processes run. Well, there's a lot of customization there. Now, the customization may be done through configuration of SAP, or it may be areas where your programmers are going to have to roll up their sleeves and start to write programs that integrate with SAP to achieve what you want as a business. So new development applies to a build acquisition method, and it might be a buy and build combined, as I just said. It is still favoured by a lot of organisations because if you can have an efficient programming team, they can build things quite quickly and they match your business and they can be deployed where you want them to be and when. So you get a lot of flexibility and control over how your business is running. So a key area then for new development, this is number 2, is to see that there's something that you can give to your IT team that gives them an advantage over using conventional technology. And I will go into this in detail a little bit further on, because there are a lot of different technologies out there. There was a study done about 18 months ago. Sorry, the study was done just over a year ago, but it ran for 18 months. And what they did is they looked at advertisements for web application developers. And the study was quite amazing because it classified into 5 different types of web development, but it also looked at the technology that was listed in the ads for the people they were looking for. And a developer needed back then 6 to 10 technologies or development languages in order to develop a business web application. That's a lot of stuff to keep up to date with, and that actually brings some potential pitfalls to the business and also to the developer themselves. So we're going to go on to the next key area, and this is where you're looking after something that is now in production. I call it maintenance and enhancements, because it does apply to the build acquisition and also anywhere where you've had to do integration or customization with a buy. Okay, and also integration with a subscription as well. There's been numerous studies, but I think there'll be no one that will really kind of dispute the fact that whatever it costs you to build or implement a new application to support a new business function or whatever, you should be at least budgeting 4 to 5 times that amount over the lifetime of that application, perhaps even more. So that will lead to key area number 3. Not only do you want to have something that enables your programmers to be very productive, but you want to make it so that when they have to go back and touch the application that they've built or the integration that they have put together, they need to be able to do that really efficiently to be able to get that change in quickly, but also at a low cost. I'm just going to take a sip of water. It's been talking for nearly 15 minutes. Okay, so what is holding back IT? How can you can go from better to best? Let's presume, first of all, that your IT people, they're coming into work each day and they really want to do something good for you, okay? So they are going to be doing their best with what they've got. I've seen time and time again, I've been in IT for some time, some decades, that projects take much longer than people originally planned for. And because of that, sometimes there is pressure on IT to deliver to a certain date. Now this can cause several unwanted outcomes, like it being unstable when it's actually made available to the users, or that there's a lot of patching or maintenance that comes afterwards, which really starts to drive up then the cost of that. So I've already touched on this before, but about the complexity. So as I said, that in that study, which was done last year, 6 to 10 technologies. And we'll start in the next slide. I'll dive down onto what complexity does to a business. These technologies, and I also touch on this, they are being upgraded and sometimes superseded very, very quickly, much faster than they were before. And I'll actually show you something that's quite mind-boggling on how many different technologies are out there and how quickly they can be superseded. So we will look at complexity in a bit more depth, because it affects the cost of the build. It affects the cost of to keep it running, the operational cost. It leads to a higher risk, which can impact your scalability and your reliability that we talked on before, because there are more moving parts. So reducing complexity is the 4th key area where you need to look for improvements. How can I keep it simple but still deliver? Here's a graph, very simple one that was taken from Project Managers Symposium back in 2010, but it's still fine today. So as you increase complexity, and this could be technology, team. Now in team it could also be, the expertise of the team, etc. As soon as you get past a certain point, it'll start to rapidly increase the risk here, the technical, the cost, and the schedule, as I mentioned before. You do not want to be up this part of the curve. This is where this is where it's starting to endanger your business. Up here, you're talking about possibly critical business incidences that your business may not survive from. and that has happened in the past. Because the applications today are more complex than they've ever been, it will be increasing the risk profile of your organisation. And we need to examine what kind of risks are going to be evident to your company, and perhaps some strategies for addressing those. I'm based in Australia, and over the last couple of months, as a matter of fact, as recently as a few days ago, our largest telco called Telstra has had outages. And it hasn't done this before. It has a pretty good stable track record, but it's so complex that they actually really can't get to the heart of what's causing it. So it hasn't happened just once. We're talking about, 4 to 6 instances where it's out for hours at a time. It's getting so complex that it's very, very hard for Telstra to be able to maintain the reliability at the scale that they're providing it. So it doesn't matter whether you're using open source, so-called free software, and I won't talk about it because it's not really free, or whether you've got purchased web development components, the rate of change is rapid, and we'll see that in a following slide. So because of that rate of change, you need to make 2 decisions. Am I going to run a production application which has older versions of it, the components, or am I going to spend time and effort to keep the components up to date without really getting any business benefit of doing so, except for perhaps reducing some of the risk? I call this running to stand still. It's a bit like at the gym where you're running on a treadmill. You're expending a lot of energy, but you're staying on the same spot. So this list I put together, I found a fellow called Scott G on the web who compiled the list over a year ago, and there's about 160. You don't really have to count them. These are tools that can be used with web development. There's more that would have been added since last year, and a lot of them will not be around this year. So essentially, if you have a component on this list that isn't supported, you have what I'm calling instant legacy. So now let's look at what we can do to get the best out of your IT. I think I've established that following the crowd is not going to help you get there, because the crowd is saying that a web developer needs up to 10 different technologies, and that's going to add to complexity. So by adopting that stratagem, you are going to therefore come up with more complex applications. And we know the danger of throwing more and more technology just adds to that complexity. Everyone's talking about that your business needs to be disruptive. Well, disruptive is also like differentiating. Disruptive, if you look up the meaning, can mean innovative in this space. So you want to be able to do something that is disruptive. I haven't seen anyone talking about let's think disruptive when we're doing development. Okay, this will give you something that's innovative, and it will give you a competitive edge when you are providing or supporting your business applications. The rate of technology is leading to applications, as I say, going live with technology that's out of date, which is instant legacy. So you would have subscribed or registered for this from LANSA. That's the name of our organisation. We've been around for nearly 40 years, and we saw this coming. Sorry, nearly 30 years. I added a decade on there. So LANSA has always been around equipping application developers to be able to produce great business-grade applications, but helping it simplify it for them. So that's why we've developed LANSA Composer, which has been around for over a decade and helping companies around the world. That allows you to do that integration, which is critical when you've got multiple applications and perhaps some that are in the cloud. And Visual LANSA, which is a low-code development platform. What I mean by low-code is that if you're using a lot of the conventional technology, you had to be building a lot of it yourself or adopting what they call frameworks and changing the frameworks. A lot of that requires a lot of coding which needs to be maintained. So these two key solutions from LANSA I now call the disruptive development solutions. We do one thing and we do it really well. We produce innovative software tools so that your IT team can deliver even more quantity and quality. So let's recap. We're coming into the last 8 minutes or so. There are 4 areas where you can look for improvements in your IT team. Codeless integration, rapid new development without having to code everything. It has to be efficient if they go back to make changes, and it has to be more simplified than what they're doing today. Codeless integration, I mentioned we have a product called Composer. Okay, this is where at a high level information or data needs to be exchanged, and an event happens in an application. It could be yours or a business partner's, and you need to make another application aware of that event. Okay, you need to pass data to it. So business analysts can use Composer, not programmers, and they can easily define how they want to move the data, and that's what I call the transportation. They can then graphically map that data because it's coming in a certain format, and they say, yeah, that's great, but our application needs it in a different format. Well, they can do that using a graphical drag and drop mapping capability. You may have a more complex business process that needs multiple steps to take place. They can link those together in what we call our processing sequence. And it's all held centrally, so it means that it's secure, and there's one place where you know that your business process integration takes place. We even provide a management dashboard to show you how the integration processes are working. So this is how you get the best out of your developers. We have evidence from customers that are using particularly the latest version of Visual LANSA, and they're saying that they are getting about a 60% improvement over conventional coding. We had a .NET development team in America, and when they were doing a web business application using Visual LANSA, they said it was so good they just couldn't believe how much easier it was to use Visual LANSA. This allows you to do 2 things. The 60% saving can just go straight to your bottom line, or you can say, you know what, we've got so many things that we've had on the back burner, let's just throw some more work to the IT team because they've got this added capacity. So you're not having to add more people, you're not having to go to an outsourcer overseas where quality might be questionable. You can actually deliver faster to market, which means if you have a backlog, you can cut that to 0 because you can push more changes through your IT team. So that's valuable to your organization. So I'm saying can do all this great stuff. How does it do it? There's one skill. Remember there was 6 to 10 that a web developer had. There's one skill, and that's Visual LANSA, that a developer has to learn. Yes, they do have to learn, but it's one. They can do the front end that appears in the browser or in a rich Windows application. The whole back-end server, so the server that's got the database on it and that, all of that is handled, and the communications between the two. We have at the core of Visual LANSA is an idea of a thing called the repository. It's a place where it understands everything that developers are using. It understands your database tables. You can put business rules in there. It protects the data so you can't actually add new records that have incorrect data. You can actually filter that out. It allows developers to also reuse parts of it without having to go and copy out of code. And Visual LANSA eliminates the problems caused by having to integrate multiple development tools, right? So This means that you've got a simplified way of building, testing and reducing the time and cost of application modification as well, because the repository will tell you which programs need to be changed when you're doing enhancements. So the three ones, we've already done the codeless integration. We show you now with Visual LANSA you can do rapid new development, you can efficiently maintain an enhancements, and you can also reduce the complexity down to one single development capability. I hope that you have found this to be of use to your business. What should you do? Well, you can visit our website, www.lansa.com. We've got a lot of information there. We've got hundreds of case studies. We've got videos that you can watch. We've got white papers that can be downloaded. We lead to blog articles. It's a wealth of information, and I'm sure you'll find something there. You're welcome, very most welcome, to contact me directly. You can see my email address there, and you will also be sent out a copy of this recording, and you can phone me. That's my direct line. I've got time for one or two quick questions. I can see one. This one says, do you offer training or on-site mentoring? Yes, we do. We believe that by being trained in how to use Visual LANSA, that will equip your team to be up to speed much faster than trying to do self-learning. However, we also provide, when you buy Visual LANSA, you also get 12 months subscription to our e-learning platform, which will allow your developers to learn at their own pace. And we also offer mentoring. So as your developers work on their project, might be the first one, we can help mentor them through the process. And I've got time for one more question, and it says, can I truly migrate a LANSA application from one platform to another? Java promised this, but it didn't deliver. Yes, as I said before, Visual LANSA can run on Windows, it can run on Linux, there's an IBM platform, it also runs in AWS and Azure clouds. And because of the nature of how Visual LANSA works, you can actually move your application between those platforms. So you may start off with it running on your own servers and then decide that you want to make this process available in the cloud. You can simply port that into the cloud, subscribe to the LANSA software to be installed on those servers, your application's installed, and you're now running in the cloud. I'd like to thank you. It's been a pleasure providing this information to you. And as I said, please contact me if you've got any questions or queries. Thank you.